Back. It's time for AM Talk, and we've got a lot to talk about. My very, very well-dressed guests are in the studio, and it's my pleasure actually to meet you for the first time. Indeed, Richard.
Richard Ahiagwa.
Yes, yeah. Richard Ahiagwa, who is a member of the communication team of the NPP. Richard is here alongside the former Deputy Minister for Education, current ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Parliament, and Member of Parliament for North Tongue. I'm always tempted to say South. It's North. Mr. Samuel Okujetu Ablakwah. Very nice to see you. Thank you so much for making the time.
Nice to see you, Kujo. Good morning, Richard.
So today we want to focus on the upcoming State of the Nation address. We want to do a bit of speculation, but also drill into specifics. We want to figure out what we think the president might say, but also we want to highlight what we think the people of Ghana consider the State of the Nation to be. But first, the Commission has continued its hearings into another day. Yesterday, we heard from another police officer. Evans Mensah also took his turn. I want to start with you, Mr. Ablakwah, because your party actually called for non-participation in the Commission's work. But I'm sure you've watched. What are your thoughts?
Well, thank you very much, Kujo, and good morning to our viewers across the globe. To be, I think, more precise, the call by my party leadership was that as a corporate entity, they would not cooperate with the Commission, but individual members are free to attend upon the work of the Commission. And so I do know that there are quite a number of our members who have received invitations and are preparing themselves. One is my own colleague, the Honorable Sam George, who tells me that he is billed to appear before the Commission tomorrow.
Right.
And I know that he will be honoring the invitation. So yes, as corporate entity, as in the chairman, general secretary, going to represent the party, Ghanaians should not expect that. But members are allowed. There is no bar preventing members who are invited or who want to volunteer information to the Commission to so do.
Can the party actually legally hold such a position, bearing in mind that you could be subpoenaed to appear before the Commission?
Well, I believe that we should place the party's position in context. The context is that this is a matter which has criminal dimensions. The party's view, and that was well articulated by the statement that the General Secretary signed, is that we saw, thanks to you in the media, footage of the brutalities. The persons have been identified, they are known. A Minister of State responsible for national security has owned up that these were his people, he deployed them, and he's taking responsibility. Now, we are guided by precedents in earlier commissions, in the Ghana 50 case, to be more specific, where the learned judge, Justice Mafusao, held that if you go through the entire history of commissions of inquiry in all our constitutions, commissions of inquiries, their findings, their recommendations cannot be used against the witnesses who appear before the Commission, and so cannot be held criminally liable. And that's the reason why the Honorable Kojo Mpieni, Charles Rekubrobi, and others were left off the hook. Since then, that has become our jurisprudence. That has become the law, state of the law. And so the party's view, which was held by many lawyers in this country and legal experts, is that why don't you proceed with the investigations, criminal prosecution, and bring to book those who perpetrated this injustice? And it's a view that a minority also holds. That's why we boycotted the swearing in and proceeded to march to the police headquarters and demanded investigations, demanded arrests, demanded prosecution.
So your party feels that this commission's work makes it impossible for criminal proceedings to be carried out?
Yes, and our view as a party is that if care is not taken, we all then lend credence to a process which grants immunity to the perpetrators. They go off the hook. And you see, we all must be interested in sanctions, punishment, to serve as a deterrent, because we are all at risk. Look at even what is said to have happened in the Ashanti region, NDC. At this point, we do not know if it's really an inside job or masterminded by external elements, but it's criminal.
And the police are working on the theory that it's an inside job.
And when people are apprehended, we expect that they should be taken through the criminal path. There should be no attempts at granting them immunity, at covering up, at going to engage in what may at best be described as window dressing or some, facade to allow them to get off the hook.
Right.
That's the view we take.
Okay, but what I had wanted to get, before Richard comes in, what I had wanted to get from you is your impression of the proceedings so far, since you have observed.
Yes, I must say that as a stakeholder in this country, a member of parliament, I am deeply worried from what I have seen. The contradictions, the claims and counterclaims. Yesterday, for example, the regional police commander disputes what the East Legon police commander said. East Legon police commander had told us that he was not part of the deployment and he was given no role. The regional police commander now disputes that. The previous day we saw DSP Azugu, who has become the butt of all jokes in town, that they wear masks to prevent mosquito bites, and I've noticed on social media there is some mosquito bite mask challenge, and all over the place. And SWAT, in every country, SWAT is an elite team, specialized weapons and tactics unit. I mean, not even every country has it. You have to meet, there are universal standards, international standards. You send your finest, most intelligent, the most sophisticated, most professional, very well honed persons into that specialized unit. And this is what we see. And even when the ministers appeared, we've all seen the contradictions and all that. So I worry about the state of our security. And that is why I continue to pursue the line that we need to hold persons in charge of security accountable. And so if you look at Act 526, the Security and Intelligence Agencies Act, and Article 83 of the Constitution, it's clear that the National Security Council must present annual reports, must be accountable to Parliament. That has not been done in a long time. And you know that I'm proceeding to court that the minister responsible for national security should be compelled by mandamus to appear before Parliament, present the annual report, so that we will know all of these things. Perhaps this could have been avoided. We will have known exactly how they were recruiting people, levels of professionalism, and all of that. We will not get to where we are. So I am deeply, deeply worried. It's clear that all is not well with our security as a country. The command structure seems to have broken down. It's not clear who is in charge, even how persons get to call themselves national security operatives. All of that is now up for criticism, and all of us must be worried. But it is clear that this commission of inquiry, in terms of what it is bringing out, the recommendations that will come out of it, based on lessons that we are all now gleaning, will be helpful. Okay. However, let us also carry out our work in such a way that, yes, commission of inquiry should lead to reforms within our entire security architecture, but let us separate the criminal aspects to punish people who shoot at others, who brutalize others, who take lives, so that it becomes a very costly venture to get into. But let me commend the JoyNews team. I was particularly impressed with Evans Mensah. I was in the constituency doing some rounds, but I listened intermittently, and it's clear to me that the joint newsroom was well prepared, well represented by Evans and Samson Ladi Ayenini, and the perspectives he brought to bear, his sincerity, you know, the depth that he brought to bear, all of that, I believe, will help to put together a report. And if there is the commitment to implement the recommendations of the committee, this country should improve, should be a better place.
Indeed. Right, Richard. So I think a good place to start from would be the point Mr. Ablakwah is making about the contradictions that seem to be coming through as the Commission goes further into its work. I wonder how you are struck by those.
Well, again, let me also take the chance to say good morning to your good self, to my honorable brother and your viewers. I think my honorable brother talks a very good game about the pursuit of criminal justice and trying to punish people who may have done, you know, wrong in the Ayawaso situation, and also by extension what happened yesterday or 2 days ago in Kumasi. The only problem I have is that when under them he was a government official, same things happened, and they didn't even come close to wanting to have the same conversation. But it's good that today all of us can see that. But the only exception I take is this, that when after, okay, neglecting to take the necessary action which he praises today, or maybe seek not to praise, why is it so that we cannot have an understanding that yes, enough is enough? Now let's sit and try to address this going forward. You see, his conclusion now supports the commission, saying that if there is that commitment, given the contribution of Joy and the representatives that went there, we'll have a good report and Ghana will be better for it. So why don't we all just support the commission? Because one, you didn't do it, and the instances that led to Ayawaso, there were precursors for it. There were instances of it in the previous one. I don't want to mention, we have belabored that example. So why is it so that now today there is an attempt, whether or not you believe in that attempt, is a process allowed by the Constitution to engage into, whether or not it leads to prosecution, it gives us the insight to try to find ways to avert those things in the future. So I see it, and I'll be a bit well, let me just say, I just think that is a bit unhelpful. I think this will be acceptable to my brother, that the NDC as a party takes a position that we are not interested in supporting the work of the commission. I find that almost irresponsible, okay? Because if after taking that corporate position, what you are trying to demonstrate to us that you are not interested in finding truly what led to that. All they're interested in saying is that, oh, it is them who did it. But then how does that help as a country to prevent that? Because for me, I believe...
Wait, are you suggesting that pointing out the culprits will not help the country?
Well, but pointing out the culprit, we pointed...
And then punishing the culprits.
Well, that part I'll address. But there has been instances where we've pointed at culprits that have gone and the same issue had repeated itself. So we're saying, and in the wisdom of the president, having listened to what Ghanaians are saying, say that, okay, we cannot afford to have this repeat in the future. We don't pray, but by-elections may happen. So let's understand what is it that, particularly with by-elections, we have these issues. So let's have an inquiry to understand the sets of events that led to that. And in his analysis, really very instructive in saying or identifying the disconnect in the communication. This is a critical issue that we need to understand. Why is it that you are going as a unit or as a law enforcement agency to supervise, to protect, or to try to ensure peace during an election, and you can't communicate within your ranks? Okay, that's something critical that we're going to find out, or we're finding out per the hearings. So it would instruct us to say, going into subsequent by-elections and maybe elections generally, there must be a unit, or there must be a conscious effort to ensure communication is at a level that everybody knows where the next person is standing.
Permit me to ask, is this a problem of communication, or is it evidence of lying? I'll explain my question. So a problem of communication could be that, oh, well, these people were coming to do an operation and we were not informed. Or this man was supposed to be part of the task force and he didn't turn up, and he wasn't aware that he was supposed to be. That is communication. But lying is where one person says, we sent a task force out there to find a cache of weapons. They had nothing to do with the election. Then the commander of the task force comes and says, we were sent there to boost confidence during the election, but we're also told that there might be a cache of weapons, and if the intelligence comes through, we will cordon off and search for it. Both can't be telling the truth. One is lying. It's not a communication issue, is it?
You know, the very interesting thing is that we cannot speculate as far as to be able to read people's minds. So my general understanding is this, that we have a situation where individuals will come and tell the story as they think they've observed on the day. And that is going to allow us to take a full view of what happened there, and then instruct ourselves through recommendation to say that going forward, this and this and this are acceptable, this and this and this, if we do, would ensure that this very issue that we're looking at, where one person is saying that and saying that, would not reoccur. That for me is the locus of what we should be focused on. And if we do that, you understand, we'll be improving. We'll be setting ourselves up to do better tomorrow. Now, the skepticism of the NDC is what worries me, and it makes me wonder if truly they are committed to ensuring that these issues are addressed, or they want the reoccurrence of it so they can capitalize on it for political gain. Right. Because really now, the very sad issue that happened in Kumasi, I'm hearing snippets of rationalization that says, oh, maybe somebody could be planning that against us. And I wonder, how in the face of this grave loss would you try to rationalize and even say, possibly, an individual will sit down and orchestrate a thing like this? For me, there is no life, NDC or MPP, that is worthless or more priceless. I believe that all lives, all Ghanaian lives, are both priceless and precious all at the same time. So if instances like this are happening, we must commit ourselves to trying to do the very best we can within the resources we have to ensure that we prevent this for long-term peace and safety of our people. That's what I think the wisdom of the president is guiding us to do through this commission of inquiry. I like the situation where he informed us that Honorable Sam George is preparing himself to appear before the commission. His contribution will be key, just as Mr. Evans mentioned yesterday, and your other colleague. We need all this view to come to a place where we see some semblance of understanding of what happened, to say that going forward, ABCD cannot happen. Right. It would help Ghana, and I join him in concluding the way he did, that Ghana will be better for it.
Okay, I would like us to move quick on to the State of the Nation in a minute, but I have one thing for each of you on this commission thing, and then we can move. So, Mr. Ablakwah, if I've understood how you've articulated your party's position, their main concern is that they feel that this commission, however well they do their work, might end up making it impossible, not might, will end up making it impossible for any people who may have committed criminal acts to face criminal trial. Yes. I know that there are some who disagree with that position. There are some who feel that an independent criminal inquiry can go ahead as long as that inquiry does not rely on any evidence given at the commission, and they rely on evidence they acquire independently. They can go ahead and prosecute people who may have appeared at the commission based on that independently acquired evidence. Is that not the case?
You see, that is the case, and that can be the case if criminal investigations are carried out. What the Honorable Minister for Information told Ghanaians is that by the setting up of the commission, the police investigations that had earlier been spoken of in the president's statement. Remember that the president's first public pronouncement on this matter was to congratulate the winner and to say that police investigations should be carried out swiftly.
Yeah.
So when you in the media inquired from the government spokesperson, we were told that that investigation has now stopped. And indeed, when we marched to the police headquarters, and I refer to the minority in parliament, presented a petition, up to now, yesterday was exactly 2 weeks, we have not been invited. Our background checks indicate that because of the work of this commission, investigations have ceased forthwith. So there's no investigation going on. Remember that in these matters, time is of the essence. The crime scene, gathering evidence. We are hearing all the Herald newspaper and others every now and then will report exclusively about how people are leaving the country, how some of these suspects are being given safe passage and all of that. Over time, it becomes very difficult to hold people accountable. That is why the party took. I believe that the party's position would have been different if government had said that, look, this matter is also criminal, apart from seeking reforms in our whole security architecture. So criminal prosecutions will be carried out, people will be punished, and then we can have the commission work to look at reforms, to look at the lapses and who was, responsible for this and all of that. I believe then the party's position will have been different, because the Justice Mahfoud Sow's judgment in the Ghana at 50 case is what is the position of the law now. There has been no change in that position of the law. It has not been overturned. So the party's position is really based on sound judgment. And remember that we saw the views of many legal experts and luminaries within the party and in the country before we came to this very difficult conclusion. It was a very, very difficult
So I guess my question is this.
Which to be very firm, it's not an irresponsible position, as my brother said. It's rather the responsible position to take. Because can you imagine where a party, a corporate entity, all of us, just, go along with this, forget about the criminal investigation side, the criminal prosecution side of this matter, and then everybody gets off the hook. It becomes very lucrative in the future for people to do this in every election and get away with it. So it's rather the responsible position to take based on sound judgment, based on the position of the law.
But my question is this: how does that decision help? Who benefits from this boycott? Would you not rather have been better served to perhaps mount a legal strategy to overturn the Ghana at 50 decision, so that no matter what the commission does, a criminal case can still be brought, if you believe it can't? Would that not be a better use of your time? When you boycott, who benefits? Who gains? You've already said that the work they're doing will lead to positive, productive results. Why not be part of it?
So you see, we need to do the distinctions. We believe that this commission of inquiry, for whatever it is worth, can help to reform the whole security architecture, how we deploy, and how we hold people accountable. It will even help these commanders. Next time they are recruiting people and they are getting to the field, they will be very, very cautious that they can be held accountable. And I have enormous respect for the commissioners, Justice Short, Professor Rita Mensah Bonsu, the former IGP Achampong, Kofi Abochi. I mean, these are people who have distinguished themselves. I do not believe that they will want to, sacrifice their reputation, to just please one side of the political divide. So let's understand it that within the context of reforms, this can be helpful. But then the criminal aspect, we don't see any commitment. I mean, look at the fact that as we speak, not a single arrest. We saw everything play out. Live TV coverage, recordings are available, and no attempt to hold anybody. The persons have been identified, even the masked individuals, because after some of them took to social media celebrating and all of that evidence is now available. And nothing is going on. If the NDC had not boycotted, we will still not be discussing the criminal aspect. So that's the strategic advantage in taking some of these decisions, right, because all of these matters are considered. And in coming to a decision, because if you go and lend yourself everybody's supports and we all, shut our eye to the criminal aspect, we'll all move along. Okay. The country will not be discussing, okay, so why has the NDC boycotted as a corporate body? Then we are able to remind all of us that there is a certain criminal aspect which ought to be pursued.
Okay. The last thing I wanted to touch on with you is this. And you speak for government, right? You're a spokesperson for government. Okay. There are accusations from the minority that none of what happened at Ayawaso, West Wuogon, could have occurred if the president had not been aware, at least of the existence and function and origins of this armed group. Now, this aspect of whether the president was aware or not is what I want to bring up with you. You speak for government. The president is the chair of the National Security Council. These individuals were recruited, equipped, and sent on various missions. We learned that sometimes they are sent to guard state land guards.
Who said so? The police officer.
Azugu said so.
He was speaking for himself, yes, and the police service.
They asked him what sort of work the SWAT team do, and that was the answer he gave, that sometimes they are sent to guard state lands. So are we saying that the chair of the National Security Council is not aware of the existence and function of the National Security Force?
Brother, I'll help us, really. If we say yes or no to these questions, that's not what moves us forward. Okay?
But what is the answer? Yes or no?
That is immaterial. What I like to talk about, and what we should be talking about, is the understanding that with the benefit of hindsight, okay, we have former President John Dramani Mahama, who has also equally been a chair of the National Security Council. And having been there and experienced that, is acting in ways that suggest he doesn't have an understanding of how the system works.
So by that,
so what I am trying to say,
current president also doesn't have an understanding.
No, I'm not saying so.
So he does have an understanding.
He has an understanding.
So he knows about this force.
Of course. I'm not saying so, but what I'm trying, your question is seeking an answer that is not existent. What I am trying to tell you,
it's not existent.
Yes, because not existent necessarily, because it is not something that arises for us to even discuss, because
really?
you cannot presuppose that he is not aware. What you're trying to ask really is the president aware, yes, of the national security situation. He is aware,
and he's aware. So he's aware of this force.
I'm saying that he is aware of the national security situation of our country. Mm-hmm. But you're trying to create an avenue for a question that, for me, does not arise. What I'm saying
Why
is
should we not be interested in whether the president is aware?
He is
of this team of men that we saw on screen beating up Ghanaians. This team of men that we saw on the screen slapping a member of parliament and then beating him.
Let me ask you a question. You were in this country.
We shouldn't care whether the president is aware of them.
Hold on. You were in this country, okay? When Talensi happened, did we ask that question?
I did.
What was your answer?
Well,
what was the answer?
That was for them to answer.
Well, I don't know. You asked the question.
Influence yours?
No, I'm saying that asking that answer back then did not get us anywhere. What would get us somewhere is finding what actually bring about the situation. So asking the question really is not what gets us forward. It's about what we are learning from those things. So I asked you.
So what you're saying is that even though I asked that question,
the answer they gave you,
it didn't stop this current government from doing the same thing.
No.
So I shouldn't ask the question again.
Now let's understand clearly, okay? what is convenient for us, we understand there is the separation of powers. Okay? But when it comes to this, we lump them all together and say, oh, then the president. The separation of powers.
So
the security arm, okay, is working in ways that institutionally they have a mandate to do. You understand? Just follow the logic here.
The minister is separate from the executive.
Please. We have separation of powers.
Right.
And we're operating in ways that, on aggregate level, you have the president superintending. So on a day-to-day operation, you have the various ministries who are working. Now you have a minister appointed to superintend a ministry. It doesn't mean that he comes there with his own new people. Okay? There's an institutional argument that existed before him. You understand? So that's why you cannot, by fiat, say, what has happened, you blame it on him. Of course, the backstop, wait, just let me follow my logic.
Go ahead.
By fiat, you can't say you blame it on him. Of course, on principle, the buck stops with him. Now, if you do that, what does that get you? That's what we have done all these years. And we had Talensi, we have a Tiwa, we had Aswasi, and the rest of it. We had Ablakwah. People have been maimed in this country. And so you get to a point where leadership says, you know what, we have done these same things for so long and we've gotten the same result. Moving forward, let's try something different we have not done before. And that is, let's try and have an objective, dispassionate inquiry into what has happened and continue to happen, and see if that helps us to forge a new direction. That's what we're doing. So
why stop the police investigation, though?
I don't know who stopped the police investigation. Government, as far as you ask me, Mr. President will not go and tell them to stop. If the police, in their own administrative sense, thinks that it's proper to stop it, that's not something you ask me. You ask the police about that.
Do you think it's proper for the police to stop
I think that investigation should happen. But if they stop it for whatever reason, doesn't mean they will not carry on with it. When my brother said it, I was going to ask or tell him that it should be possible for the NDC to walk and chew gum. Okay, if they're saying that, or if they have joined or supported a commission, it means they would not talk about the criminal part of it. It is their responsibility as a responsible opposition to engage the government. So if they feel that, okay, by supporting the commission means they will dissipate their energy and don't have any energy to seek justice for Ghanaians, if there is that commitment on their side, I find that to be, again, irresponsible. I know he will refute that, but that's exactly what it is. We are interested. Look, there is no agenda to try to do anything to shortchange Ghanaians. It is important to understand that point, because these things have happened in the past. And the people, and especially the NDC, who are criticizing this thing, have never been bold enough to establish a commission. Okay, so now you tell me, you who have not been able to do same thing to see some understanding about why these things are happening, how we can stop them, you are now criticizing that somebody is doing that and it's bad. Was it not the same thing that happened? Didn't people die back then? People died. So why is it that suddenly there are moral justice sense of people have died, we want criminal prosecution and all that? Why is it now that they are aware of that, when back then, when they had power, they didn't think about that? So I'm saying that we are not interested in assigning blame here or there, or asking questions that expose this person to be this or that person to be that. We are interested in serving Ghanaians. And I invite them to join us to say that this is our country. We are opposition, they are in government. Let's work together to see that we are protecting Ghanaians, and we see that by-elections should not become a place for people to die or a place for people to be afraid to go and exercise their democratic right. Let's work together. It is about democracy. We must work in partnership, in concert. We had a press conference yesterday, and I think I embraced the position my director of communication brings to say that as a people, we must move from just blaming or talking about things, which the NDC has specialized in, unfortunately, this cycle. Okay, that all they are going to do is to blame everything, castigate everything, to get to a point where we're having constructive discussion about how we move forward as a people. That is what we must be.
All right. Mr. Ablakwah now wants to respond, which means we have to push back our State of the Nation for a few more minutes.
I'll try and do that quickly.
Yeah, please.
I'll try and do that quickly. There are a number of flaws in this argument. First, on the principle of separation of powers. It's executive, legislature, judiciary. I belong to the legislative arm. The National Security Minister, the IGP, Interior Minister, Defense Minister, the President, they belong to one arm, the executive. Article 83, which Kojo was referring to earlier, is very clear. It says there shall be a National Security Council which shall consist of A, the President, B, the Vice President, C, the Ministers for the time being holding the portfolios of Foreign Affairs, Defense, Interior, and Finance, and such other ministers as the President may determine, the Chief of Defense Staff and other 2 members of the Armed Forces, the Inspector General of Police, and 2 other members of the Police Service, one of whom shall be the Commissioner of Police responsible for Criminal Investigations Department, the Director General of the Prison Service, the Director of External Intelligence, the Director of Internal Intelligence, the Director of Military Intelligence, the Commissioner of Customs, Excise and Preventive Service, and K, 3 persons appointed by the President. And this is the very important part Kojo was referring to. Article 83(2). It says, the President shall preside at meetings of the National Security Council, and in his absence, the Vice President shall preside. The Constitution is very clear. And Act 526 even further fleshes this out. It's very clear that the President presides. You cannot talk about separation of powers and try to separate the President from a council which he chairs and presides over its meetings. And I understand your difficulty, because if you say that the President is not aware, it means that he's abdicated. He's not presiding over meetings properly. He's been super incompetent. If you say he is aware too, then it even makes the matter worse. So I understand why you opted to swim and bring in, the misapplication of the principle of separation of powers. 2, the other flaw in your argument is that, my brother, should we be growing as a country, or we should be static? And when we vote for change, what does that vote mean? The people of this country expect that when they have voted for change, that change will represent a change for the better. The third flaw in your argument, you say that, oh, these things have been happening. Everybody in this country knows that this is the first time. You see, by-election violences that have occurred in the past have been, yes, political party. I also disagree with the tag of vigilante groups. These are militias. And some of us have been consistent that we don't need them. I have been MP in North Town for how many years now? My 7th year. I don't have a militia. Am I dead? Has anybody come after me? It's totally needless. And we don't need these groups. So what has been happening is that, yes, these hoodlums, sometimes bloodthirsty, go on a frolic of their own, sometimes clash with their counterparts in other political parties. But this is the first time that they have been actively recruited. They've been given uniforms, given SWAT team vehicles. We didn't see this. Even in other by-elections where your leaders said that they were this time the ones who won in the violent contest, we had the Etiwa verdict where your candidate said, oh, Etiwa, yechiro mu bibi kakra, yesu yechiro mu se, yesu yewo mienu, and all of that. We remember that. Yes, they have been telling Chiriponi to be balanced and objective in my analysis. But we know that this is the first time we have sent these matters a notch higher, where now we are giving them state cover, giving them state equipment. Let us not downplay at all what has happened. Because you ask yourself, in between elections, in between by-elections, what do these thugs who are not professionals, who have not been trained, as Azugu admits that, yes, my men who have not been trained properly, they are clearly not professional. What do they do in between assignments to either go and be land guards or go to Ayawaso? What do they do with these weapons, with these sophisticated equipment? Because special weapons, SWAT, it means that they have access to all the sophisticated weapons. Because the notion of SWAT is that you have the most professional people, so trained, so restrained, that they will not engage in such conduct. What we saw in Ayawaso West, Wagon, has never happened in the history of this country. And that is why there is a commission. So let us move forward. You see, don't approbate and reprobate. Don't blow hot and cold, what the accounts call Motro Mojo. Don't do that. You've set up a commission because you know the enormity. When was the last time you saw a statement from UNDP? You saw the diplomatic corps call the president and say that, look, we are worried. We want to have a meeting with you. Call the opposition leader, the former president, that, look, we want to hear your side. It tells you that everybody is worried about the future of this country and the state of our security. Let's not at all downplay these matters. So I am quite disappointed. I have a lot of respect for my brother, but I'm disappointed in the trajectory he has taken this morning.
Mr. Ablakwah, I was hoping you would also respond to the point he made about why not participate while advocating for criminal action to also be taken. I mean, could your party really not have done both?
I mean, this was considered, I do know, in the discussions within the party, and at the end of the day, the majority warned that, you see, when you participate, then you will not be able to forcefully make the point at the criminal investigation, especially at the time when it had been announced that criminal investigations will be suspended so that the commission will do its work.
Why not? I fail to see why you couldn't have done both.
So that is why we opted for the middle ground. We could have barred all our members that it's a policy of non-cooperation. But we chose the middle ground where we are saying that individuals can go. So you can go, you are an NDC member, all right, but you are going this time as an individual. You are not representing the corporate brand.
So if any of your executives is subpoenaed, you won't go, you won't attend?
Oh, you see, we don't want to be lawless. I'm sure that if there's a subpoena, they will appear. We don't want to be lawless. You see,
all right.
you see, we are saying that, and we want every Ghanaian, everybody, to join us because we are all at risk. As a member of parliament now, I'm very worried. You can be going about your work in your constituency, somebody will just show up, shoot you, and they'll say it's a vigilante group that shot you, and all of that. And,
I get the point.
So,
I get the point.
So we don't want to be lawless.
Yeah. But if you will respond to a subpoena, does it not make your boycott pointless?
Well, let's get there. There's been no subpoena at this point. But I'm sure that you get the point, because but for this boycott, we will still not have been discussing the criminal aspect and the pressure that we are bringing to bear. Pressure we are bringing to bear by a boycott. Because that's why these democratic positions exist: boycotts, pickets, demonstrations, and all of that, which are all allowed in a democratic dispensation.
Okay.
So that you press home, you put pressure on authority to take
now
action.
We really must move on if we're going to talk about state of the nation.
We will. But you see, let me just say a thing. NDC, okay, is a walking floor of logic. Okay, the very thing he just said in talking about my analysis and all of that, nothing he said stands a test of rigorous scrutiny. Now, you are professing moral high ground on violence that has been committed at elections, and you're justifying that the previous violence was a clash between political parties and their groups. So therefore, it is reasonable for that kind of violence to carry on in this country.
Did I say that?
Your rationalization concludes.
They are all condemnable. But please, I'm saying that
you analyze
the turn of events now.
Please, I'm just doing analysis from what you said.
It's a new dispensation.
Okay. No,
we haven't seen this before.
Okay. I was here when you did your analysis. I'm only saying, deducting from what you have said, okay, that this Ayawaso one stands in a class of itself.
No doubt.
Okay. Now, so you are saying in essence that what is happening in Cherponi, which you said is fair.
I didn't say it's fair.
Or you said to be
to be
balanced.
objective. I'm saying that we've all been victims.
Allow me to just finish.
MPP, NDC.
Okay, just allow me.
You don't listen to me carefully.
Well, I did. So allow me. If you listen to me, you understand I did listen. The point of it is this. He's trying to say that those ones are in a minor class. Therefore, that was okay that they didn't do anything about it.
I didn't say that it was okay.
I am saying,
I never said
my
that.
brother, we're doing an analysis.
No.
Okay, let's
so what you have said.
The existence of these groups.
Let's be fair.
I've said we don't need them.
If you draw a conclusion that he disagrees with, I think.
But he says.
But
what about the same
to move on? So I don't want to interrupt you anymore. So that you can quickly wrap up and
so
then
you shouldn't
move on.
interrupt and I'll go on.
Please.
What I'm saying is that by saying Ayawaso is in a class of itself, okay, and knowing that similar things where people's lives were maimed in the same country that all of us condemned, Okay, you are saying that that one was between political party people, so therefore that was okay.
I never,
Now, can you?
I never said
please,
it's okay. I never
please.
said this. No, once you are
We
quoting
are
me,
doing,
and I'm
I'm
here,
not quoting
and
you.
I'm
Please,
here,
in a minute, I'm going to have to move on. So please, let's allow
I
him
never
to.
said this. I've condemned that. I've said that we
In
don't
just
need,
a minute,
we don't
we
need
have to move on.
manipulation.
So please,
analysis-
please
And
wrap up.
remember that crime is not statute bad. You are in control of the investigative
Very
processes
well.
now.
Very
All
well.
of those violations you list, you can go after them.
Okay,
and punish
so-
them.
so
And I will
Kojo,
support such an action.
Mr. Ablakwah, please
Kojo,
allow him
Kojo,
to
I
land
like
there.
that.
1 minute.
Yes, Kojo, I like that he brought that in, that crime is not statute bad. So therefore, that's why you have to go to the commission and push the commission to go beyond Ayawaso and go to Cherponi, go to Talensi. Let's find out what happened there. So you see, this kind of positions where you take conveniently seeking to absolve yourself from responsibility and blame another for the same thing you are guilty of, that for me is irresponsible. We're saying that any Ghanaian life is just as important. So therefore, let's do all it takes to ensure that we preserve the life of people. We make people feel safe. That is the commitment of this president. So as a responsible political party, if you believe you are, join in the process. Why? When you're going to a commission, you're going to tell your side of the story. In fact, what happened in Ayawaso was an interface between the NDC on one side, we the MPP, and the security forces. So therefore, let's find out what the views are that is happening. Because right now, when the event happened on that day, your chairman had a press conference. Okay, we have seen, pellets of the bullets picked away from site. Why was that done? We need to understand. So you are not getting involved in the process. You sit on a high table to say that, oh, that process is flawed, that process is this. Meanwhile, you don't have what it takes to have ordered that same inquiry or that same process when you had a chance to. And the list or the worst you do is to say that that one was pretty much between some group of people, so that one is not necessary to inquire into. Okay. Those lives in Cherponi, in Talensi, wherever they have happened in this country, in Ablakwah, those are Ghanaian lives, and those deserve to be saved also.
All right.
And
so
when we fail to save them, an opportunity is here to try to do something so that tomorrow none of this will happen again. Don't belittle that, and don't boycott that process and call it democracy.
All right. So speaking for government, what you're saying is that you would support this commission looking into Talensi and Cherponi and Atewa and all of those others. Yes.
I don't have a problem, because at the end of the day, we're trying to solve a problem and preempt reoccurrence of this in the future.
Okay then. So, State of the Nation is coming up tomorrow. Boy, we could have talked about this the whole morning. But let's look at State of the Nation. The President is going to address the nation, and there are a number of things that we haven't yet heard the President personally speak on. But let's start from the economy. It's one of the things that, of course, preoccupies many Ghanaians. The city is having a not such a good time recently. How do you expect the president to address this issue? And to make it interesting, I'll start with you, Mr. Ablakwah. How do you expect the president to address the issue of the city and its recent decline in value against the dollar and other currencies?
Well, we do know that pursuant to Article 67 of the Constitution, the President will deliver a message on the state of the nation to Parliament. You are right. If you had asked me to list top 5 things that my constituents will want to hear the President speak to or address, the state of the cedi, the rate of depreciation, as we speak, is gone past the 5.3 mark, which we all dreaded. We didn't expect that we will be in such a situation, and it does appear that it's a free fall. And if you look at the assurances that we had been given, not only when then candidate Nana Addo Akufo-Addo was opposition leader, but in his first 100 days, his vice president and chairman of the economic management team assured us that the matter of cedi depreciation is a thing of the past. The cedi has been arrested, and the key given to the IGP. He was very graphic in his analogy. And that gave a lot of confidence to everybody, yes, that the man with the magic wand, remember that he held a lot of lectures. One of it was, tackling the depreciation of the cedi, and where he argued that no matter what you say you have achieved and you've done in the economy and all of that, if the fundamentals are weak, the cedi, the exchange rate, will expose you. And now it's a case of somebody falling on his own dagger. Here we are. I'm sure that they will come and talk about, oh, GDP is good, debt to GDP ratio has declined, and we are not doing bad with other macroeconomic statistics. But you yourself created this scenario, and you said that no matter what you are told, it is the exchange rate. That is what shows the fundamentals of the economy. So we would want to hear from the president what the fundamentals are now. And the point really, Kojo, is that the depreciation of our currency will continue. In history, it's continued so terribly that we had to knock off 4 zeros because it had depreciated over time so terribly. What we all know is that the structure of this economy is not sustainable. And I recall that in one of President Mohammed's State of the Nation addresses, he talked about the structure of economy. The import-led economy, how we are not manufacturing anything here really, and it's still a Gudgesberg economy. The will to change the tide, and I do know that, to be fair to President Mahama, he rolled out a number of interventions, the stimulus package for the pharmaceutical sector, for the poultry sector, the attempts to revive the textile industry. There's one in my constituency, Drop on Textiles, and I know the bailout we received from the Agriculture Development Bank. And then what he tried to do also to cut imports of rice, and other staples. It does appear that that momentum has not been sustained, and so the cedi has remained vulnerable. We need to have that discussion, and you see, we have to all come along as a people. Our taste buds. There are some countries you go to, all this perfume rice business and all, you don't get it. It's not. Aveyime rice is in my constituency. It's struggling. It's virtually collapsed. If Aveyime rice was up and doing, and our taste buds as a people, we love made in Ghana local rice, which all the experts say is more healthy, my constituents will be in job, and many more people will get a job to do. This economy will be better for it, and the pressure on the cedi. But you see, the cabal in the import sector and the lack of political will, to go all out to implement this structural adjustments is really the bane. So we can do all the politics and blame others and claim we have the magic wand and all, but if we don't have the political will to stop a lot of the things we are importing and to boost, the issue of subsidies, for example. Yeah, they'll tell you don't, under all kinds of strange WTO regulations, don't subsidize your farmers. Meanwhile, they are subsidizing their farmers. Can't we subsidize our farmers and really support agriculture so that we can grow what we eat, what we need? It gets to a time sometimes in a year that we're even importing from Burkina Faso, importing cabbage, other vegetables and all of that. You see, we know what to do. But I don't know what happens to us. You get into political office and then, the political will, it looks like the forces probably become so Herculean that you are not able to fight them. I think that we have to go back to what we all know we have to do to restructure this economy, to convince Ghanaians to come along with changing our taste buds and supporting local industry to be at the driving seat of our economic transformation.
Right. Richard, I know that you're also a member of the finance team of government. Am I right?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not? Okay. Just heard that in my ear from my producers who are probably now looking at their notes again. But obviously, the city is perhaps one of the big items on the minds of Ghanaians. So it turns out that we haven't arrested it, or if we did, it has escaped.
But
this day the IGP is very hot.
so he slept on the job. Right?
Oh dear.
But this is one of the beauty of politics that we need to preserve. The idea that we can pursue a common interest agenda. That is one thing that I think we need to do more of than the other. I agree with him totally on the subject of the structure of our economy. Okay, it's not sustainable. We have become consumers of the world. Okay, everybody produces everywhere, and we just go find them. That only affects our city, but it affects our creative, abilities. If you need anything now, the lack of it will gear you to want to, dream it into being. But now, when you dream anything, all you have to do, Google it and see some place somewhere somebody's made it. And your question now is, how do I get it? So it limits our own ability to be able to solve the problems that we confront, somehow even more specific to our climate and environment. So it's a serious question that we need to address. And I'm happy that we have a president looking at the circumstances that we're in. And I'll invite my brother. I suppose that maybe, there's a Ghana Beyond Aid document that is ready. Maybe this, we brought to Parliament, or we can have some understanding and adopt it as a way to go. It's a philosophy that emanates from us to say that we too are able to solve our problem. And I think from our first president, Dr. Sajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, gave us a rendition of that we, the black man, is capable of solving his, or addressing or managing his own affairs. So this is a second version of it in this Fourth Republic, to say that let's now begin to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. So then if we're able to do that, we'll address the question of our currency, which always fluctuates back and forth because we are depending on other people's currency, or we're buying other people's currency to feed our appetite. That's something that we can have a common action agenda on. And I believe that when we do so, this country will be better for it. So the city situation, it is clearly a product of our taste. And this government, the agenda to do with one district, one factory, if pushed successfully, and I invite my brother and his party to apply constructive criticism to that. Enable government, or criticize government in a direction that pushes us to, and to deliver on that, which we are doing, to deliver faster on that. Right. One district, one village, one dam. Push us constructively, because when we achieve that, the benefit will not know an NDC person, will not know an MPP person. It will be a Ghanaian benefit, and I think that will help us address some of this problem with our currency.
Okay, but you see, in opposition, the NPP prescribed solutions. Dr. Baumia's lectures, I didn't miss one of them. Good. He prescribed solutions. They sounded great.
And they remain great.
But this is your third year in office. And the man with the solutions is vice president. But the problems persist. Even the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda, which you are pushing as perhaps one of the long-term solutions to this, was announced by the president in the first year, one of his first interactions with a visiting president. That's when we first heard about Ghana Beyond Aid. We're now in the third year, and we've only now seen the blueprint. We've only now seen the, what's the correct word for the document?
The charter. The vision charter.
Yeah. Is it that you had ideas but didn't know how to implement them, and you're now putting together the detail of how to get them done? Or were you just speaking a lot of English, and that the reality of governance has shown you that the problems you accuse your predecessors of not being able to solve, you can't solve them either?
Well, that's rather a very interesting way to look at how far we have come. And I understand that you know that we are not where we were in 2016. It didn't take just by, not doing anything for us to get this far. In fact, the economy we picked up from them, if nothing was done, if these very great economic lectures you're talking about were not present, we would have skidded back into the abyss.
We're talking about the city, though.
I'm talking about the same thing. You understand? Yes.
We're not where we are in 2016. We're worse.
Well, I'm telling you, yes. But you know, we projected forward, and the conditions we talked about were the ones responsible for that. But what I'm trying to tell you is this. But today, we've gotten to a place where, in 2016, before we came to office, we're hung on the strings of the IMF. Today, we're not going to be going forward. We'll now be in a position to devise our own economic policies to address these challenges.
The IMF that's caused the city to...
No, I'm telling you the conditions that we had in 2016.
Yeah.
Okay? It takes certain discipline to be able to come out of that, conditionalities that the IMF puts on us.
Right, so what you're saying
today
is that
you have gotten to a place
it was
where
never going to be instant. That's what you're saying. That even though you knew the solutions, the results were never going to be immediate. Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm not saying that necessarily, but you can infer that. But what I'm trying to say
in that case, then maybe the vice president shouldn't have said they've arrested the city. Was he just playing politics? Is that what it is?
No. I mean, you're not really assuming. Can you ever arrest the city? You are taking a situation. No, I'm not saying you shouldn't have said it. There was an expression he's saying, because at the time he said it, was the city doing better?
But yes, the indication was that you had solved the problem back then, at that time.
So I'm saying,
clearly
I'm asking you a question. Okay, help me. If by the time he said that, was the city doing better? Was it?
It was. The city was stable.
Okay.
It was stable at the time.
Okay.
So my point is this.
Yeah.
If it was stable at the time, yet you knew that the problem has not been solved, perhaps you shouldn't have said it's been solved.
I'm just asking you a question in point in time.
Yeah,
when he said so.
I answered that, but I'm also saying that...
No, just that should be enough for me to proceed.
All right. You don't want anything else beyond that. Okay.
Yes, it was true when he said so. So then the description at that material moment was apt. But we're saying that going forward, the conditions that we agree or militate against our currency and our economy by and large is what we need to address, and long term we are working to address those ones. You understand? So if we are successful, okay, with the pursuit of one district, one factory, that gives us opportunity to produce and export, as opposed to actually, in essence, trying to balance our import-export deficit, then we are getting to a position where as we can force our currency, or our currency inevitably, by market demand and supply, be able to be stable. That's where we want to focus on. And I'm saying that those economic lectures you say you listen to, but for them, would have skidded in the abyss.
All right. I wish we could go on this, but I'm told that we have to go live to the Accra International Conference Center now for a live event. Roland Walker is standing by. But thank you both so much. This has been very interesting. We have to do it again, perhaps at Parliament.